Welcome back. Pakistan has yet again proved that its bonhomie with terror won't end soon. In a bid to break the impasse with banned terror group Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, the Imran Khan government has surrendered to radicalism and openly embraced hate by assuring to lift the ban on the terror group. This comes days after 7 policemen were killed and several injured in protests by the hardline Islamist group. Apart from lifting the ban, the Pakistan government has also promised TLP to unfreeze accounts and assets of the TLP leadership. Now, despite the open truth about Pakistan's surrender to terror, the talks lobby is unaffected.
In the news hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining us for more on the story is Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP. With us also is Shehzad Poonawala, lawyer. Major General G.D. Bakshi is also with us on the broadcast. He's a defense analyst, as we very well know. Qamar Cheema, political analyst, joins us from Pakistan. Also with us is Omar Altaf, journalist from Pakistan as well. Let me begin with you first, Sanju Verma. Let me begin by asking you a simple question. At the end of the day, you know, this kind of a move where, in fact, Imran Khan's regime has once again struck a deal with the TLP leadership, doesn't this really, at the end of the day, underline how soft Pakistan is, or the soft corner it has for such terror groups?
You know, Madhav, I think you've completely nailed it. In fact, you know, what I find extremely disconcerting is the fact that just till about 15 days back, every top, leader from Imran Khan's cabinet and from the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party claimed that we will not release Saad Hussain Rizvi, the head of Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, TLP as it is popularly called, and we will ensure that they are, nailed under the anti-terror laws of Pakistan. And within 15 days, look at the former fault by the Imran Khan dispensation. 7 policemen have been killed in Pakistan in the last 15 days. More than 250 people have been injured in the clashes on the streets of Islamabad and Lahore, and Imran Khan has completely capitulated. This is the same Imran Khan who gives bhashan on Jammu and Kashmir. This is the same Imran Khan who gives a bhashan on Article 370 and Article 35A. This is the same Imran Khan who gives a bhashan on POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. But within Pakistan, Hazaras, Mujahid, Pashtuns, Baloch, Hindus, Sikhs are being disenfranchised day in and day out. And to top it all, Imran Khan goes and provides legitimacy to a terror outfit and to an extremist group like TLP.
Right.
I think that should say a lot to you. Just 1 second, Madhav. I have a feeling that in February 2022, when the Financial Action Task Force meets again, Pakistan will not be removed from the grey list. If anything, Pakistan may find itself promoted to the blacklist of the Financial Action Task Force.
Yes. That's certainly something that many observers, many impartial observers have also felt. But Qamar Cheema, I just want to ask you a simple question. You know, how does the current regime in Pakistan justify this kind of, or even talking to a group that has actually killed 4 policemen just 2 weeks ago? How is it justified?
Present government is between a rock and a hard place. And I think the situation is very delicate. Imran Khan does not have a support from any political quarter. The polarization which Imran Khan started, the political polarization, has just brought Imran Khan to a closed street. And now for any kind of a national consensus against such kind of fanatic and militant organizations, there is no national consensus. There is no political platform. Even the respectable forums like Parliament, they have not been consulted, and nobody has discussed that how such kind of militants must be addressed. I think Pakistan's democracy and Pakistan's governing structure has been exposed and has got weakened because of this kind of approach which has been taken by Prime Minister Imran Khan. It would have been much better if the entire political elite, with the support of the unelected institution, would have taken a firm decision against those organizations which are challenging the writ of the state challenging the constitution, killing the state officials, killing the policemen. It would have been much better for upholding the law and order in the country. Right now, it has been established that these fanatics have just under gunpoint have forced the government to release the person who is having around 100 cases against him, and this has weakened the democracy, and this has weakened the constitutional commitment of the Pakistan's Prime Minister, which he has promised with the people of Pakistan, and they are doing it because they believe that if they will be hard on such kind of militants, they may lose next elections. So no political party wants to take long-term decisions. No political party wants to take strategic decisions because they fear they may lose their larger political battle in 2023 against each other. So they are shying away.
Shocking.
They are moving away from the promises which I've made. This
Absolutely
is very
shocking.
unfortunate for the people of Pakistan.
Well, absolutely shocking over there. And Major General G.D. Bakshi, in fact, Qamar Chima has spoken very candidly about his own regime over there. But, this is ultimately a very, very dangerous trend that such hardline fundamentalists can, virtually at gunpoint, force a government to take such a position. This is extremely dangerous from India's point of view as well, given that Pakistan is its next door neighbor. This kind of, a pandering is certainly that is something that is very dangerous.
Look, let's not forget that Pakistan is a nuclear weapon state, and if if nuclear weapons have any chances of them falling into the hands of non-state actors, the greatest candidate is Pakistan. The greatest candidate is Pakistan, and the way the Pakistani state is crumbling before the Tehreek-e-Labbaik, before the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, this is a recipe for disaster. After all, a state stands for certain values, certain law and order. Here are policemen being slaughtered on a daily basis, and you have the state caving in. I also suspect this has something to do with the clash, and I think our Pakistani interlocutors will be able to throw better light on this. It has something to do with the clash that Bibi Imran Khan generated with the Pakistan army, with General Bajwa. I mean, the Lady Peer felt that the DGISI was needed to hang around for some more time around. He's already done his bit of damage by putting in Kabul a government which even Pakistan cannot recognize. I mean, it is so toxic, that Taliban regime in Kabul. I mean, it is full of drug mafiosos, it is full of terrorists, global listed terrorists, etc. Pakistan and China have not been able to recognize this. And yet the lady felt, because the peer or some spirit told her that this man is needed around, and he took a stand against the Pakistan army chief. Normally that is the death knell of any Pakistani politician. It is the death knell. And the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan has been used earlier to destabilize regimes. It will be used again. It is being used again. I think our Pakistani guests would better be able to comment on this.
Well, let me put that question across to Omar Altaf. Omar Altaf, first of all, what is going on? Is this a direct result of the friction between Mr. Imran Khan and the army? That is a question coming in from the general. And also, a very, very important point that many would say is that, this is the regime that has called Osama bin Laden a martyr in the past. So it's not entirely unsurprising.
I would like to first take this opportunity to condemn what TLP is doing, and I think all extremist groups should be banned, whether they operate in Pakistan or India. But there is a major difference between Pakistan and India. In India, the extremists are in power. On Pakistan, they are on the street, and the state is making.
Omar Altaf, what are you comparing?
Please let me complete.
Please don't make frivolous statements.
No, Omar Altaf, please let's be a little reasonable. Let's be a little reasonable. Mr. Qamar Chima was reasonable when he came out and condemned it. Let's not make unnecessarily incendiary comments, please.
Please don't speak gibberish on national television, that too on Indian television. How dare you? How dare you?
Have a heart.
How dare you?
Sanju,
how dare you
Sanju ji, have a heart. Please listen. Please listen.
No, but Omar
Why
Altaf,
should we listen to you?
Isn't
Omar
India a
Altaf,
democracy?
Omar
You
Altaf,
provide
only if you are
medicine
prepared to speak
country.
reasonably, please. This is much too serious an issue for it to be
Indian
trivialized in this
government
manner.
on
Please,
Indian television.
Omar Altaf,
You
at
have
least
the
come out and tell us.
audacity to
At
get
least,
out.
okay, one second. Omar Altaf, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Please
Are
answer
you
that question.
insane?
One second,
Are
Sanju
you
Verma, one
insane?
second. I'm taking him on a slightly different tangent. Now, General GD Bakshi has raised a very, very pertinent point. Is there any guarantee that this organization, the TLP, and those persons who are in fact in that organization will not get access to, sensitive equipment such as the nuclear equipment or get access to the nuclear buttons tomorrow? That's a question that he is asking. Would you like to respond to him on that?
No, I think Pakistan has a very swift and a very smart, robust nuclear command and control infrastructure which secures Pakistan. I don't think so. You can, if there is a protest going on anywhere in Pakistan, you think that Pakistan's nuclear weapons are in danger. That's absolutely false. That isn't the case. The issue is the state of Pakistan must take action against this extremist group. That's an issue. And the state of Pakistan has capitulated, and it's operating from a position of weakness, which shouldn't be the case.
Okay.
Because we should learn from
sir,
India's
these
example.
crocodile tears that Imran Khan cries for minorities in Pakistan, what about that?
Had been contained.
What about the Hindus and Sikhs who are at the receiving end of
RSS
attacks
had
time
been
and again?
contained.
What about that, sir? Isn't this a complete betrayal of that statement that Imran Khan had made to say that minorities are safe? When on the one hand he says that, on the other hand he ties up with such individuals.
Pakistan should learn from India's example. India allowed extremists to capture the state.
Please, Omar Altaf, I'm just going to lower your folder because you're just not talking reasonably. I want to bring in Shehzad Poonawalla on that note. Shehzad Poonawalla, at the end of the day, this is the most important aspect as well. Ultimately they say one thing, the regime says one thing whenever there are attacks on minority institutions or groups or individuals, but look at the actions that are actually taking place on ground.
Sorry state of affairs when even Kamar Chima is forced to accept on Indian national television what exactly is wrong with this country. The difference between Islamist radical organizations and the state of Pakistan was always separated by a very thin wheel. Today that wheel has slipped off. And the fact of the matter is that Pakistan is synonymous with Atmankistan. You have seen the patronage they've given to various terror groups that operate against India from their soil. You found Osama bin Laden inside Pakistan and them living in denial. Obviously was there with state patronage. And now you have this deal that they are doing with the TLP. The fact of the matter is that this is not just a learning for us about Pakistan, but those who are constantly advocating talks with Pakistan, well, this should be yet another indicator as to why we cannot talk to a state like Pakistan, because whom do we talk to? यहाँ पर तो जब सैयद है कोतवाल तो आप डर काहे का? That's what the terrorists in Pakistan say.
Okay, Kamar Chima, your response to that. At the end of the day, the regime there is being overrun. Is being overrun by such radical and fundamentalist elements.
Well, first of all, I would like to clarify and make the point clear what General GD Bakshi sir was mentioning. Pakistan has a very strong and robust command and control system, and we have a very strong strategic forces which exactly guard our strategic assets. And few radicals, they cannot take over the state. We have fought with the thousands of terrorists before. We have eliminated the terrorist infrastructures. We have eliminated...
But how are you at the receiving end of terrorists if you're cutting deals with them, sir?
Let me finish my argument.
No, Kamar Chima, I'm asking a question to what you have said. How is Pakistan a victim of terror if you start cutting deals with such same fundamentalist organizations?
They are not... Listen, there is a difference. There is a difference. They are not... They have been declared as a militant organization. They have not used terrorism as a tool to make changes in our society.
Okay, quick response from Sanju. Quick response, Sanju. Sanju, limited time, 20 seconds. Quick response. Quick response to Kamar
You have
Chima.
to ask him to stop.
I'm almost out of time, Sanju Verma. Quick response from you.
The quick response is this, that if Imran Khan is serious about countering terrorism, then let him ban Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba, hand over Dawood Ibrahim, Masood Azhar,
Okay.
to the Indian
Ultimately,
government.
that's the action that India wants to see. That's the action that the world wants to see from Pakistan, which unfortunately has become synonymous as the epicenter of terror globally. On that note, I'd like to thank all our guests for joining us.